Guys, this is Ethan, and you're watching us here at GoBuilda TV. So today we've got a lot of new products to talk about. It's been a couple weeks since our last show where we really highlighted new products, so that'll be super exciting to talk about all of those. We've got quite the back catalog today. We've also got a couple of specifically really exciting motor options for you. So you guys, I'm sure, have heard about our 8 Rex output option. We also will have a Gearbox option that'll come kind of in the flavor of a 5202. So we'll give out more details on that as we roll on with the show. So definitely make sure if you have any questions, tag us at GoBuilda TV in the chat, and we'll be able to jump in and answer all of those as we go. So I'm really excited. Our last stream I think we did was right after FTC kickoff. We had the robot in 3 days, which I actually have right here. If you want to see it, have any questions about it, let us know. We can show stuff off and give some more close-ups on that robot and what we did and all of that stuff with it. Let's see, so that's really exciting. The primary new part, and honestly one of my favorite parts that we've released in the last couple weeks, is this new 1201. So you'll probably hear me talk about it in live streams. The 1201 43.2, or the quad block pattern mount as most of you guys know it, is the quintessential FTC part. Excuse me, not FTC, the quintessential GoBuilda part. It's used for boxing the end of channel. I actually have a build right here that uses it. And I'm sure I can find a bunch more. It's used everywhere. There are like 8 in the Strafer chassis itself. So we have a new version that is, instead of 43 mil wide, it's 27 mil wide and 43 mil tall. So that allows you to do some really cool stuff with low side U channel. Low side U channel was one of my favorite things that got me into GoBuilda back when it first launched. And this is a kind of design that I remember I was playing with. I was like, hey, this is really cool. I wonder how I can get that a little more compact than normal channel. So there are a couple different widths that keep everything on pattern, but still allow you to make it narrower than a standard 48 mil wide channel. So the wider one is a 27 mil ID, so inside plate to inside plate. That gives you 32 mil kind of width of that whole system. So you have this kind of box that is 32 wide and 48 tall, which is really nice. A really important part of low side U channel, and one of my favorite features, is this row of holes along the top and the bottom. Those are on 8mm grid, and the length of standoff that you use is really important to keep those holes on grid width-wise. So with a 27 mil standoff or a 1201 27.1, you have those holes center to center 16 mil across. So you can bolt something like a hub or another 1201 27.1 to the top of those rows of holes, and you stay on pattern and everything is super nice. The other length of standoff and spacer we released is 19 mil. That gets you the super compact channel wall to channel wall low side setup. That's super nice. That gets you 24 mil outside to outside. Your holes are 8mm across, so you're on 8 mil grid in 2 directions, which is super nice. And this whole setup is really, really strong because you're kind of, you have those walls really close up next to each other. They're touching, so you get a lot of strength in that direction because of that additional support. So that's really exciting. We have those in standoffs, 19 mil and 27, and we also have the through hole spacers, which are both really useful in different applications, just depending on what you need to do. Let's see here. It looks like we have a lot of questions about shirts, this shirt in the chat. So we actually just got this. Oop, I've got a hex key in my pocket still. It is our shop shirt. It's right now only people up here in the R&D department have these, but if it's something you guys are interested in, it'd be a little bit more of a premium shirt, but we're definitely looking at getting them either We're not sure if they would ever go on the website for sale. They may just go out to some specific coaches that we really like and who've helped us a lot throughout the years. So if you think you're one of those coaches, definitely keep an eye out for them. That's something we would love to be able to do in the future. The last part that we've released kind of fairly recently is the 1517-0032-0080. That's this guy right here. It's a 32 to 32 pattern adapter. So a lot of the times we have this in Servo City, and a lot of the times when I talk to our Servo City customers about this, they say, well, what's that for? It's a pattern adapter, but they're the same pattern. And we use them on kits a lot on Servo City to kind of give you 4 threaded holes to have access to. So we bolt this to the top of a gear, and you have those 4 thread holes to mount additional components on without having some super long screws. That's kind of hard to access. My favorite part of it is actually not that. It is this counter bore, this bearing counter bore in the back side. That lets you constrain our big 32OD, 12ID bearings, and you can pop those up against a channel, or a mecanum is a great example. And this would be a great piece in a dead axle mecanum setup because it allows you to constrain that bearing and also gives you holes on the 32 pattern to tie into and bolt your sprocket or your pulley or something like that to it. Our Lanzo says, hi Ethan, hey, how's it going? Let's see here. And with that, let's start talking about the thing everybody, I'm sure all you guys tune in to talk about, which is motors. So this season ended up calling for a 1-to-1 motor or something around there. A lot of teams want to go faster, and some teams don't want to go quite as fast as that. But anyway, running that a 3-to-1 overdrive or a 4-to-1 overdrive on our gearboxes, we just didn't feel like was very reasonable or a very great option. So we have a bunch of really exciting, we have 2 specific really exciting options for that. So the one that we talked about on our Robot in 3 Days stream, and we actually have a prototype here that we're looking at, is an 8mm Rex output. Let me actually zoom in on this a little closer so you guys can see. And it is really exciting. It's got an adapter plate actually mounted to the face that'll just come with the motor. So you'll be able to buy this as a part, where it'll come with the bare motor with the 8mm Rex shaft pressed on. There actually will be a threaded hole in the end here that'll be M4 thread. And there'll be this adapter plate with the M3 screws that you'll need. Yeah, so that's going to be kind of a really good way to do it primarily. And that will let you, this is especially nice if you want to go faster than bare motor speeds. Bare motor speeds are really easy to hit with a 1-to-1 belt drive or a lot of other options. But a lot of our pinion gears are a great example, where we've kind of designed our system around the 5202, where you have a 6mm D shaft and you're 90% of the time you'll want to slow that down if you want to have any difference in ratio. So we have, say, a 30-tooth pinion in 6D, but we have 36 and 40 in 8 Rex. So a great example is if you have 5202, I wanted to make it twice as slow. I'll take a 40-tooth pinion on my output, and I'll also have a 20-tooth pinion on my motor. So that'll give me a nice reduction. With 8 Rex on both sides, you actually have the ability to run an overdrive, where you put that 40-tooth on your motor, and you put that 20-tooth as your output. So then you have a 2-to-1 overdrive, or you can do a 1.5-to-1 overdrive as well. So that'll be really nice. Stealth Biplane mentions that 3.7-to-1 is working really well for him. That's great, and especially with some bigger wheels, I think that'll work really, really well. It didn't work really well for us in our Robot in 3 Days, so that's a big reason we pushed really hard to get these out as fast as possible. So both of these options should be available by mid next week. I know we talked about having them here by this Friday, but we just couldn't quite hit that. So middle of this next week, Thursday would be a really conservative guess, is our best guess right now. So that'll be really fun. The 8 Rex output shaft is really nice if you want to go faster than bare motor. If you want to go 7,000 or 8,000 RPM, that'll be really awesome. We also did get to do some testing on these over the week. So we tore into one and used the encoder to get us some really accurate speed data. This one right here exactly is running at about 5,800 RPM with nothing on it, no external friction or anything like that. So I would say you're going to be in that neighborhood. Bare motors especially are very, very fast, so that plus or minus 5 to 8% on your free speed number will affect them a lot more. So that 5 to 8% means you can have one motor that is pretty drastically faster. So generally I say count on your bare motor spinning at about 5,300 RPM, and then put it there with a velocity PID loop. Say this is where you want to go, you're shooting for this speed. And then it's very consistent, and you know you can hit it no matter the battery voltage. Our numbers are always on 12 volts. We run right off a really nice clean power supply, so we get a really accurate number there. But a lot of times FTC teams will run their batteries and charge them up to 13 or 14 volts. So all of a sudden our number is going to be pretty low compared to what you'll get for at least that first little bit while of the match. You'll also have current draw that's definitely going to affect your overall speed. So if you're running your drivetrain motors, you're going to drop your voltage, and that's going to affect your speed. So a velocity PID loop, you can do this by just telling your motors to run using encoder and set speed, I believe. So that's a good way. Or you can go ahead and tune your own velocity PID and use kind of graphs and watch how your motor speed is changes depending on the overall, show how it drops and gets back up to speed after shooting. So that's a really solid way to do that. Our other one-to-one motor option looks a heck of a lot like a gearbox. It is not a gearbox. It uses the same 5202 form factor that you guys are used to, but it is one-to-one off of the bare motor. This is a really nice way to keep that same 5202 profile that you guys are used to. It'll fit in the same form factor. This looks identical to a 5.2 or 3.7 on the outside, but it's crazy fast. You're in that same neighborhood of speed. Now, with that, that means since you're adding two bearings to this, in the output of that gearbox, which is really great because it means that's really well supported. That's something we'll talk about in a minute with these motors. But it means you're adding some friction. So that free speed is going to drop down a little bit. And that's why it's really important just to set your target speeds at a lot lower than the theoretical free speed of these motors. Our theoretical free speed spec for this is 6,000 RPM, but you're never going to hit that on a shooter because of friction and bearing friction. And when you spin this up to full speed, it kind of acts like a fan. And you end up getting load where this might pull 0.4 amps free spinning. This is going to pull in the neighborhood of, say, 1.2 to 1.4 amps. It looks like we've got some questions over here in the chat. Are there going to be giveaways this time? We are going to have giveaways, so we're going to give away two 5202 gear motors and whatever ratio of your choice. So actually, I will go ahead and start that giveaway. Let's see here. All right, so you should be able to, let's see, yep. You should be able to type in the keyword 121, so that's, you can see exactly how that's typed up over there, and you'll be entered to win. Definitely make sure to remember that you need to be following our channel in order to win, and we'll pick a winner for those two Yellow Jacket gear motors in a few minutes. If you do end up winning that, just shoot us an email over to marketing@gobuilda.com, and we will, with your shipping information, name, and all that stuff, in whatever ratio you want, and we'll get that sent out to you pretty fast. So that one-to-one gearbox is nice because you don't need to support the output shaft. It's out of the box. You can put a wheel on it and run. You can just bolt a Gecko wheel to it and you have a pretty good shooter. This 8Rex output, you have more freedom. You can change your ratio a little more, but you will have to do a little more design and you'll have to be more careful with it. The general rule of thumb is that you want exactly 2 points of support on a shaft. This has 2 points of support on this output shaft. It's got 2 bearings in there. And most of, say, a straight chassis is going to have two bearings on opposite sides of the channel, something like this. So this output shaft right here only has one point of support, which means as you apply side load from something like a belt or, God forbid, a wheel, if you were just to bolt a wheel directly to this, you're going to decrease the efficiency of your motor, and it's going to do not great things to the internals there. Worst case scenario, you could end up bending that shaft, which would really suck. So you want to make sure you support that with a bearing somewhere along that shaft. If that's right on the output, or if it's out near the end, that's really nice. We've also had very good luck with our 8-Rex bearings being the most concentric option. 8-round bearings are very nice and they're a little lower cost, but on a shooter, running 8-Rex bearings is really important. So you want to make sure you support that output shaft. If you bolt it to this channel, say, and you run a pulley in down the length of that channel, you want to make sure you have a bearing out here. And the threaded end that'll be on the end of this shaft should make constraining that bearing a little easier if that's the way you want to go. Stealth X051, bent shafts are my team's middle name. Yeah, I can relate to that for sure. But hopefully not with your GoBuilda parts. If you are bending GoBuilda parts, definitely shoot us an email. That's not something we really have happen almost ever. So yes, you want to make sure you're careful with this system and make sure that you have a bearing on there and you're not putting a ton of side load on the motor itself. Let's see, I know that 24 Pyra asks if we can show how zoom it goes. We definitely can show how zoom it goes. I've got a battery over here, pretty sure it's fairly charged, and I've got some bullet connectors, a bullet to XT60 adapter here. So we'll get this spinning up. This isn't very fun or exciting, it's just spinning. It's just a motor with an 8-Rex shaft spinning. It's fast, that's for sure. And you can hear it kind of buzzing away. You can actually hear, a big reason is if I put side load on this, you can hear it doesn't sound really happy. So I'll stop this one from running. It's not very exciting. That is going to be technically more efficient out of the box than this because there's no friction. There's no bearing, there's nothing. Even though ball bearings are the best way to go, they're super smooth and they're going to be the lowest friction option, you still get some resistance. So this is not going to spin quite as fast, but once you have some bearings in the mix and once everything is working overall, it will end up being very comparable. So this is your one-to-one gear motor option, very similar, nothing really very fun. Yeah, do you think that you could run and get us a ring? That would be great, and then we can show this shooter. We can't really show a whole lot of it because we don't have that much room here, but this is our shooter prototype. It's running that one-to-one gearbox on the back. And while that's happening, I'm actually going to take it apart and show you guys the gearbox in total. Let's see here. eBob7 asks when it's available for purchase. We are shooting to have this available for you guys by the middle of next week. So Wednesday or Thursday is our best guess on when we'll have these available. And we should have both available at, if not the exact same time, a very similar time. Oh, it looks like our ring got here a little faster than I thought. So I'm actually going to put this together real fast. So this whole setup is using our new 19mm standoffs. I got some early access to build this, of course. And I was unthreading this to show you guys the internals of how this system works, but we'll do that in a few minutes here. So this is that one-to-one gearbox option, and it's actually running a 6mm D pinion gear, a 30-tooth, and it's running to an 8mm Rex pinion gear that's also 30-tooth. So you've got that nice one-to-one ratio, and you're not direct driving or anything like that. Keep in mind, this is on a concrete table, so this is the loudest this has ever possibly been because you get this huge sound amplification. The frame of this table is also GoBuilda channel, which is another great sound amplifier, so yes. We'll get that spinning up here. I don't remember which way this is going. I think it's turning that way. We'll find out. So, it's fun. One thing to note about this is my 3D printed angle thing right here is not it's not concentric with the wheel. It's at a bit of an arc, so the amount of squish on that ring actually changes throughout the stroke. I was technically running this backwards how I'd been running it before, where the amount of compression increases as you get further out. That way, when I was shooting it there, the amount of compression decreases, which actually worked way better. I should have tried that a while ago. Let's see here. You definitely saw that curved shooter, so that's really exciting. Lance Larson asks, let's see here. He asks to see our curved shooter. Golf_balls, which is a kind of a surprising, I'm surprised you got that username. That's pretty cool. Does the one-to-one gearbox have gears or whatever on the inside, or is it just straight to the motor? So we'll have more information on exactly how this works at launch. It is kind of a technology that we worked up. We worked with a team to end up creating that, and it works really, really well. It ended up being a really nice solution that we were able to get pretty darn fast. Let's see. Yeah, Drizenpour, okay, asks, is the CAD on your website for this? It is not yet. Actually, it looks like K Hockey asks that too. So CAD files will be available as soon as we launch these on the website, which will be middle of next week. This is super easy to recreate. You can basically take a piece of 4mm material and put 4 holes on the 32 pattern on it. And then this 8mm Rex output shaft is 32 millimeters, excuse me, from the face of the motor to the end of the shaft. So you can create that shaft in CAD really fast if you want to. For this one-to-one option, you could just use the CAD from a 5202-0205, excuse me, 5202-0002-0005 or 0003, the 3.7 or 5.2 to 1 gearboxes. It's the exact same form factor, same thing you're used to, and that works really well. Extra battery too. Oh, looks like Kevin got to your question, which is awesome. Yeah, so if you'll have any issues direct driving a shooter, if they are supported on the far end of the shaft, that'd work just fine, especially on this option here, the 5202 form factor. But if you had this and you had a coupler or something like that, they'll let you get more shaft length out of it. That would be just fine. Because you've got those 2 points of support on that shaft, it should be a lot easier to, that whole system is a lot more robust with those extra bearings. With that, it looks like we got a bunch of responses for our giveaway here. So I'm going to give you just a few more minutes to type that one-to-one keyword into the chat. You only have to type it once, and you'll be entered to win. And then we'll roll for that giveaway in just a little while. And if you guys have any questions, make sure to tag us at GoBuildItTV in the chat, and we'll jump right on those as soon as we can. Let's see here. Gecko wheels as shooters is something that we've talked a lot about in the last, basically since our robot in 3 days, which I'll get out here. And they work a lot better than I initially expected them to. So they do expand. They expand in my testing on this shooter about 5 mil adds about 5 mil to the radius of the wheel, so 10 mil diameter, which I'm really happy about because that was my exact guess. So let's see, you get that about that much expansion, which means the amount of squish that you have on the wheel changes. If I'm going to show this is a really cool effect. A lot of people thought it was super satisfying, where the wheel, once it shoots something, will kind of compress and then retract again. It's very cool. We only have one shot, so I hope it actually works out. I'm going to move this nice display plate out of the way. So we'll get this set up here real fast. I'm actually going to reverse the polarity so it shoots in the way it was originally intended, because that's going to be a lot easier to control. It's not gonna shoot. Nah, it's fine. Okay, so we'll spin that up. You can see exactly how much expansion that wheel has. A lot of that is because of the spoke design. They're designed to give a very even amount of compression. So no matter where you press on that wheel, it should compress a pretty similar amount, but that means it expands more because of those kind of knees in the spokes. So we can watch this. Woo! You can actually see the change in speed as it shoots that element and then recovers the speed from that. Batteries are a fine way to test shooters, but they're not a great way to test shooter reliability because of things like changes in battery voltage and stuff like that. I've got to show you guys where that ring landed. You can see it. It's right here. It landed on this Rex shaft. Some things I just don't have words for. That's insane. MC Wolf asks if those are spaghetti or wires. I can't tell. That's accurate. We had about 14 hours to build this whole thing, so wire management is definitely the low on our priority list. I would love to spend some time, redo all this wire management, make this go rail. Oop, I turned that the wrong way. Make this go rail shorter and replace this top strut with go rail because I think it would look nicer. But we are really busy right now, so I don't have a whole lot of time to jump into stuff like that. With that, we'll actually roll for our giveaway real fast. So I'm going to close the entries. We're done with that, and we will pick our winner. Let's see here. Oh, maybe not. Lance Larson asks what version of the RoboClaw we're using on that. We are using actually two different versions. Our drivetrain is running on 2x15s. That's overkill, honestly, for 5202s. 5202s on a drivetrain are never going to pull 7 amps. And you are fine to just limit them to 7 amps if you're worried about it. The 7 amp versions can handle 7 amps per channel, or a total of 15 amps of like peak burst current. That's the word I was looking for. So they're fine there. You can limit them to 7 or 8 and they won't ever burn up your RoboClaw. Because your wheels are going to slip way before you pull 7 amps per motor, it's just not an issue. The shooter and intake, the intake is 2 motors, and we're running both those motors on one channel. Because we're running both of them on one channel, and the intake is a place that's much more likely to stall, we run a 2x30. It's overkill. We can only have 20 total amps in that system, but we had it, and it's a good way to protect that RoboClaw. Realistically, if I was going to do it again, I'd run a 2x15, and I'd just limit it to 15 amps. So I know that RoboClaw is fine no matter what happens. I don't need those motors to pull max current in any situation. If they're pulling 7 amps a motor, there's something wrong with the intake. The other thing that's running on that channel is a shooter. So that never needs 30 amps, but it was our last available channel. Let's see here. Oh, geez. Come on, giveaway. There we go. All right, so our giveaway software decided to work again. So we'll pick our winner here. And it looks like it is Sanjay21D. So shoot us an email over to marketing@gobuilda.com. Let us know what ratio motors you have or what ratio motors you'd like, and we'll get a couple of those 5202s sent over your way. If you really want to, I'm sure we could get some 1-to-1 sent over to you, but that may put a little bit of a delay on when you'll get that giveaway. Let's see here. So if you have any other questions, definitely let us know. You can always reach out to me. I'm at tech@gobuilda.com. And we'll jump on there. If you want to give us a ring, you can always give us a call, and you can ask for Ethan, and I'll be able to talk you through. Our other tech up here, Kevin, is also very great and knows a lot of this stuff as well. So I'm sure he'd be able to help you out if I'm not available. And you can follow everything we're doing at GoBuilda on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And hook up with us on Reddit or Discord as well. With that, we'll probably let you guys go for tonight. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you another time.